Now, another thing about us is we're too cheap to send anything back. It costs an arm and a leg to get it here, so we've been recycling for a long time. And this dry dock you walked across is homemade, and it's floating on 32 pieces of Trans-Alaska oil pipeline pipe that Madison's grandfather bought at the world's largest garage sale one Saturday in 1979. He built his own dry dock so that every 5 years we need to raise the boats up so the Coast Guard can inspect the hull, and that's what we use. And Exhibit B is this little boat tied to the end. That boat was a Walmart truck before Walmart was invented. I've seen those white semis that pass you guys on the interstates down in the lower 48, and they're hauling groceries. And that boat did that under another lifetime for a lot of years. In fact, that little boat right there was the last stern wheeler to actually haul freight on the Yukon River. Now she hauls people. So we've been doing it a long time, and I want to point out the orange paddle wheel in the back, because that is our power source on all three of our vessels. We don't have propellers on here. The wheel does the work. It's going to back us up here in a second as we make our turn. But this is a heavy boat to move. This boat that you're on this morning weighs 260 tons. Wow. And it only sinks down to this river 39 inches, which I find very reassuring looking at all of you, particularly our gold panners that are on the boat today. Because guys, if we come to a sudden stop anywhere on this trip, everybody over 39 inches tall gets to get out and push. We got some strong young men on here today, and we're proud to have them. We'll tell you their story in a little while too. But welcome to the neighborhood, a remarkable neighborhood. We're glad you're the next page in a logbook that goes all the way back to 1898. And we're going to try to treat you like family, and welcome aboard.
Get a picture of Douglas.
I'm sorry, that was right there.
Now, in the modern day, we fly a lot, and it's pretty easy to figure out why when you look at a map of Alaska. What's missing? Pavement. That's exactly right. I'll bet you have more miles of pavement in your home county than we do in our 533,000 square miles. So to us, the airplane is a second car. A lot of people fly, and one of the best in the world is going to fly for you in about 90 seconds. He's downriver around the bend in a 1951 Piper Super Cub that he found in the bushes and lovingly restored. His name is Steve Knapser. But before Steve gets in the air, I want to show you this real estate now, coming up on the left-hand side, because that's a long, straight stretch of grass and gravel. In fact, that is a former airport. Now let's go back in time 30 years to a Friday rush hour on the video. That's what it used to look like around here. Yeah. And this guy on the video is going to take off on wheels. We use different landing gear depending on the situation. And those tires aren't blown up all the way. So if he lands on a glacier, a ridge top, a gravel bar somewhere, he doesn't bounce very high. But all he needed to get in the air was 150 feet. Very agile aircraft. But you better be wide awake when you get home, because you've got to miss the other airplanes and the septic tank pipe and the canoe and the burn barrel and the pickup truck. So, do I have any Minnesotans here on the second deck? Any Minnesotans? Hey, way to go on your 10,000 lakes. We love our 3 million lakes. And they all have names. So this time of year, floats are great because you got a lot of water you can land on. Now here he comes up on the left-hand side, and he will fly a circle around the boat and land right here. But this is going to be a beautiful day to see an excellent pilot get her done. And keep in mind that 1 in 78 of us are licensed to fly. 1 in 78. And there are about 750,000 So let's reduce it down to one pilot. A good friend of ours used to live over here by the runway. And one December morning, about 42 below zero, 9:30 a.m., pitch dark, his phone rang. And it was the hospital, and they said, can you fly up to the Yukon River, pick up a young mother that's in labor? She just radioed in, and there's no road to her house. So he jumped in the airplane over there, took off, landed in the village. 2 people got in up there, touched down out here an hour and a half later, and 3 people got out of that airplane. One of them brand new. Now, what do you put on that kid's birth certificate? Where were you born, son? How about airborne - busy at the time? That That really describes it. Now watch the video. If you can't see him out here in front of us, he's going to fall out of the sky sideways. And this is a practiced maneuver. It's called a slip. You pick a bullseye right on the river and descend and slow down at the same time. Like we would hopefully downshift at a yellow light. So he's got his spot picked out. And this is like Olympic diving. The key to this is a small splash. And so watch how he just barely dents the surface of this Chena River. See how he cut the power? You can see the engine slowing down and right down on it. Beautifully done. Beautifully done. Steve Knetzer is his name. 24 Alpha is how we identify the aircraft. And when he gets here a little closer, Captain Madison will initiate a conversation and we'll be able to listen in. His story is interesting.
Discovery 3 calling 24 Alpha. Steve, thanks for coming down. Beautiful morning we have. How's the air up there?
Good morning. It's beautiful out. One of the rare mornings we've had in the last few weeks.
Well, watching that quick takeoff and really impressive landing, it's obvious you have a lot of experience in these small airplanes. And I guess that comes from necessity. You grew up in rural Alaska in a place with no roads, and you were completely reliant on these airplanes for transportation. In fact, I think you told me before that you got your pilot's license before your driver's license. Is that right?
Yes, I was actually raised out in western Alaska along the Yukon River, a place called Eagle Island along the Iditarod Trail. I've been piloting these aircraft since I was a teenager. My dad was actually a pilot and instructor. We even had sled dogs out on the Yukon for transportation. I tried my hand at the Iditarod race in 1980. In 91, I moved to Fairbanks, became an aircraft mechanic, so now I work on these aircraft full-time when I'm not flying them.
Well, these aircrafts are so popular around here. I think Jay might have mentioned it's called a Super Cub made by the Piper Company. Why do the bush pilots of Alaska prefer this plane so much?
Well, the Piper Super Cub's design is actually 1930s and 40s technology. It's a very lightweight and versatile aircraft, so it's real good for getting in and out of the remote area lakes and rivers when you see it here equipped on floats. And also in the summer, we'll go to wheels. We'll operate them off sandbars and ridge tops. In the winter months, we'll put skis for ice and snow. So just a real good small aircraft for supplying remote areas where there's no runways available.
It's pretty amazing to think that these airplanes have been around since the 30s and 40s, and not just the design, but the planes themselves. They haven't made a new Super Cub in over 20 years. I know the one that you're flying this morning, for example, it was built in 1951. How do you keep an airplane that age safely operating day in and day out?
Geez, that thing's almost like 60.
Well, we're real fortunate enough that there's still manufacturers that build parts for these older aircraft, and then there's shops around like I have that maintain and restore them. So a technology that really has proven itself over many years and is going strong today and looks like it has a great future ahead.
Okay, Steve, well, thanks for coming down this morning. I see you taxied behind us. Is there time for one more takeoff here before we go?
Yes, I'll depart downriver and head back home, and you people enjoy your morning boat ride, and this will be super out there.
65 years old. 65.
Okay, Steve, thanks again, and good luck up there. Discovery
Yes.
All right, thanks,
Good
guys.
care
He's
of
going
it.
to come up behind us in a minute, but keep in mind that well before Halloween, he's going to be on skis. He'll probably fly on skis 6.5 to 7 months. And the reason I'm so sure of this is that Molly and I raised 3 boys here. And the coldest trick or treat, I will never forget it, 37
He's talking
below
about
zero.
your
Do you have
camera.
any idea how long it takes to thaw a Tootsie Roll that's been up 37 below zero? Here he comes now on the left-hand side. Give a big wave. Yes, there is. That is a fun way to travel. So, the question arises, what kind of a nutcase wants to live here? Where you trick or treat at 37 below zero. Well, there are 100,000 of us in this valley. And we come in 4 types. The first type we're born here, they travel around, they come back here, kind of like the salmon. The second type heard about it, and they couldn't wait to get here, build a cabin, and shoot the moose, and use the outhouse and live in the woods. The third type were sent here, and some of us are still here. And the fourth type are out running 3 ex-wives and a parole officer. But we all get along because human beings all freeze at the same temperature. It's remarkable. And I want to show you a picture of 2 very important people that mean a lot to us. your captain's grandparents on the video here, Jim and Mary Binkley, a freight pilot on the Yukon River system for 55 years of his life, one of the last old-time captains to ever drive and haul the goods. But of course, they started this business in 1950 when a fellow approached him and said, I just bought a lot of buses. I got this great idea. Why don't I bring people to Fairbanks in a bus and you start a boat ride and talk about the history? Now, what a ridiculous idea, don't you think? All of you that came in the bus. So here we are, 60 years later. And the little boat coming up now was the boat that your captain learned to drive on, starting at age 6, standing on a box, kind of like living on the farm. So that's little Discovery 1.
And of course, stern wheel boats like Discovery 1 were what serviced the gold miners that originally came up into Fairbanks and gave us kind of our first economic boom. That's what really put Fairbanks on the map. And part of what helps support all those gold mining efforts is this building that's coming up here ahead of us, up on our right, which is currently just spraying water out into the river. That is the Chena River Pump House. And it was a critical part of the Esther Cripple Creek hydraulic placer mine, which used to operate in the valley just on the other side of these hills here, off to our right. And nowadays it's a really nice restaurant. They used to have giant electric pumps in there that would push water up pipes up over these hills at a rate of 6,000 gallons of water per minute. And nowadays they just pump a lot of beer after 5 p.m., but it used to be a critical part of this. And once all that water got pushed up into the hills, it would actually come back down into the Chena River through this little creek that you can just kind of see poking through these trees up here in front of us. And that is Cripple Creek, Alaska. You can see it on the monitor here. It's not exactly a scenic wonder by any means, but we like to point that out because that 10-mile stream is the richest gold-bearing creek in the history of our entire state. It's 10 miles long, and they pulled out $100 million of gold. And that was back in the days when gold was $15, $20 an ounce. By today's standards, that's over $7 billion. And
We're gonna buy a house together. It's coming up in less than a
it's all
little
flushed
bit.
out,
Okay. Gotcha.
it was a
So
pretty
how
good
cold
pull.
is the river water?
And for those of you curious how that
You have any
hydraulic
idea?
placer mining system
The
works,
water,
we can
how
actually
cold
show
is
you
it?
up on the monitors here.
Oh, probably 40s. I bet you 50s.
So you can see the water pipes there that would run up into the hills, and those pipes would get more and more narrow as they went, increasing the water pressure, and then they'd push it out of these giant nozzles to wash off the overburden and get at the gold-bearing dirt underneath. This guy in the checkered shirt could do the work of 15 to 20 people with picks and shovels. And then once they had that all washed up, this gold dredge would come lumbering up, this big behemoth, and it would sift through all that dirt to pull out the gold. And then, of course, it would leave a massive trail of pilings and just a huge mess behind it. And we don't mind that way anymore, but back at the time, that was an incredibly efficient way of getting gold out of the ground.
Oh, this one we're going to go have though? You got to see it when you get past it and look back.
They come out the other side just fine, except his fork
Son of a
And of course I wasn't there, but that's what they say in the old miners' books.
Well, now, of course, another natural resource, in addition to our first mate, Skylar, of course, are some other young people that are going to serve you today. And I want to give a quick shout out to Brody, Katie, Josiah, Emma, and Carson, who are in uniform. You'll notice now we're on a first-name basis. That's important. And Miranda and Ray are back in the little gift shop at the end of the second deck. And my friend Delana is also on the boat today. I think she's upstairs, and we'll say hi to her. She is actually Koyukon Athabascan Indian from Caltag, Alaska. She's going to college. There she is. Going to college this year in Durango, Colorado. Lucky her.
Okay, now look
At
back.
Fort Lewis College. And this is her third year on the boat.
Oh,
And
wow.
we're in love with these young people.
That's
And
gorgeous.
so
It's got this
the
little
main
cove
thing
that
is,
you
I
get away
want
from
to
the
let
main
you know
waterway
that
and
your
you're on it.
family.
Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous?
We hope we're going to treat you like family, and if you have any concerns, bring them up. And if we can't solve the
prettiest one
problem, we have been highly trained to sit down and
said it was one of the
sympathize.
brain
So it's just going to work out fine. Yeah,
Gorgeous.
it'll work out fine. Well, Mommy and I were not born and raised here. We were sent here. We're type 3. We arrived in 1968 from Bethesda, Maryland, where we grew up. And we were sent here. Normally has an airplane sitting here. He's out flying his granddaughters. He flew the world for 40 years for 3 major airlines, and that's his retirement home. That's not a McMansion. It's easy to heat, easy to clean, but when he's not flying his plane, he's running his raft, or he's in his motorhome, or his SUV, or his jet boat. Captain Christensen, I love his philosophy. Buy some toys. Amen. There's always less sand in the hourglass, so don't wait. Now, how about this light brown house on the right? Now, that probably looks like somewhere you live. Wouldn't surprise me. That house really appealed to President and Mrs. Reagan. They came to town and moved right in there without hesitation. And we're very happy in that house on this river for 3 days in May of 1984. That happened because the Reagans were headed back to D.C. from China. Pope John Paul was flying over the pole from Europe to Korea, and he had to refuel here at the top of the world. And so the Murkowski family, one of our senators then, they moved out of their new house, let the Reagans move in, and let the Secret Service camp out on the lawn about 5 deep. That was an interesting experience. But we had the President and First Lady all to ourselves for 3 days until they had the meeting at the coffee shop. So you just never know who you're going to bump into in this part of the world. It was fun for us. Now, all of our ground in this part of the state is not permanently frozen. Tall evergreens grow here, the white spruce. And look at these log homes on the left. This one was built 20 years ago by the family that bought that ground. They used about 1.5 miles of log in there and absolutely made it a beautiful home to live in. Cozy bedrooms downstairs, big rooms upstairs. And then Jack McManus bought an old cabin, another old timer, on the river, but it burned up one weekend when he was out of town, so he rebuilt it with freshly hewn white spruce and put a great sign on the lawn. That sign says, "I'm an American by birth and an Alaskan by choice," and that says it all. But old John Verbeek, who taught me to drive sled dogs, used to live over here on the right. And John meant a lot to me. I loved driving these dogs even to these girls to go to school. So this is a school. It's a school for humans, and it's a school for puppies. This is where they learn to be the great champions that they become.
No, look
and
at
so
them.
this morning, we're very pleased to be able to hear about this from a young lady who happens to be Susan Butcher's eldest daughter, who has just returned to us from New York City, where she's been designing sets off-Broadway. She's a graduate of Wesleyan University in Connecticut, but we love her because she loves these dogs, and she came back home. Let's say hi to Tekla Monson. Hi, Tekla.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trailbreaker Kennel. We're so excited to have you here today. We brought out some of the youngest members of our kennel to say hello. You're doing some fun stuff, being pretty cute as always, but we're sneaking in some training here and there.
Well, now everybody said, you know, you shouldn't work with puppies, you know, and you're doing a show, and they steal the show, but
okay?
They're really doing a lot of learning, too. And when does this learning start?
Well, what we like to do is get to know them really early in their life, because the Alaskan Husky wants to develop a sort of bond. We want to create a team that's going to run really well throughout their entire lives. So what we do with these pups is during those first few days, we go in with the mothers. We pick up each little pup individually and we blow across their noses. That's because for the first 9 to 10 days, their eyes aren't open yet. So they're really dependent on a sense of smell and on a sense of touch to get used to us. Then you can see by the time their eyes open and they're romping around a little bit, they already know and trust us. This is what my mom called the trust and be trusted relationship, which was so important to all the training she did here.
Well, it was a real hallmark of her success. And obviously we see that it continues today. But now, what are we learning to do today? Log jumping, or what's on the curriculum?
Well, on the curriculum, basically, we just want them to become a little bit more confident and introduce them to new obstacles every day that they need to use their brain and their paws to figure out. So today, it's jumping into the boat, because we'd love to take them out to one of the sandbars on the Tampa and let them run free. So they got to figure out how to get into that boat, how to walk around on sort of wobbly terrain, because that's going to be something we want them to feel comfortable doing. So these puppies, if at first they're feeling a little bit nervous, are going to get some help from us. Then once they're
Look at that little one.
we praise them on the other side. And this teaches the little guys that we are never going to ask them to go any farther or faster than they're capable of. And of course, we're always going to be there for them when things get tough.
Well, when you were 11, things got tough. You lost your mom, and in order to remember her and help out. You decided to go for a 700-mile dog sled ride on the Iditarod Trail. Honor her memory. You know how tough it is out there. How are we going to get these pups ready for that?
Well, it's just continually introducing them to new obstacles. Look at the way Cece is walking along that lawn. That's pretty incredible. We love intergenerational learning here. She's a few weeks older than these younger pups, but you can see the way that they idolize her. Oh, that is incredible. We love taking these puppies out on daily walks in the woods with the older dogs because they can pick up so many techniques from those older dogs and from those older puppies, and that's going to really set in this sense of teamwork I was talking about. No dog here at the kennel is unused. The retirees, even if they aren't running our fastest teams anymore, are still so vitally important because they have the most experience of any dog here in the kennel, and we use them for mentorship. We encourage the little puppies to run behind the older dogs as if they were in a team. Maybe they'll go run through some water. Maybe they'll walk across a log. And these pups are going to learn that there's nothing to be afraid of out there. They can conquer anything they set their mind to. It's also great for helping teach recall because we'll just call the older dogs, they come running like they've been doing for years. And the pups start to notice that when we call them, our voice means something. It's time to come home.
Well, pretty soon it's going to be time to get back there with the big guys and go into harness. Now, are they a certain age, a certain weight? How do you determine they're ready for that?
Well, we are waiting for the dogs to tell us that they are ready. Each dog has a different personality and a different rate of growth. Roughly about 6 to 8 months old, they're going to have the right body size for the harness to fit comfortably on them. Also, what we're waiting to see is that that instinct to pull has kicked in. These dogs mature and grow into adults so fast, it's really exciting to see when they're ready to go in harness. What we do on that day is, again, we use the older dogs to train the pups. We'll hook up 2 well-run adult lead dogs in front of our team and 4 to 6 puppies behind them. And it is so instinctive for the Alaskan Husky to want to pull that all we have to do is give them forward command and they take off running down the trail. And within a couple minutes, it looks like we have a small adult team.
We're ready to go.
My mom would sometimes say that it takes a minute to teach them to go, but a year to teach them to walk.
Yeah, I remember that very well.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Did you run down the lineup on your team here before you leave?
Absolutely. So the first dogs that we hook up in the team are called lead dogs. Now, you may have heard that term lead dog before because they're some of the most important in the kennel. They are in charge of steering our team. Also, they're in charge of setting the pace for the rest of the team. So we want to have dogs running out there that we really know and trust. We start looking for the characteristics of a lead dog. One more is always those pups. You say, I'm going to go. I'm sorry, I have to sneeze. The puppy that's the first one to jump over the log or to go through the water, we know that they have the curiosity and the excitement we're looking for a dog running in the lead position. Now, in a race like the Iditarod and the Yukon Quest, you have 14 dogs on your team. So you can imagine how long these lines get, how powerful the teams we're taking to know truly are. In the back closest to the sled, we call these guys the wheel dogs. Traditionally in freight hauling, you might see the biggest or burliest dog running in this position. But, of course, unlike the summertime, we don't have the luxury of using a sled. We use this four-wheeler, we've taken out the engine,
Great.
so these dogs can run all year round.
Okay, now let's see if we can hear what she says to start the team. It's not mushy Huskies like Sergeant Preston. All right, there they go. Now they're quiet. Now they're running. And she's going to wheel around the vet barn. We'll see her in the opening between the 2 buildings here briefly, and then we'll lose sight of her. We'll pick her up on the far side of the lake in just a little bit. But she's got both hands on the brakes trying to hold them back so they've got energy left for the rest of it. Now, if you have questions about this, if you've read things about it, heard things about it, wondered about it, we're going to have one of the young people here who are veterans of these longer races down at the village. Laura, are you coming down? No, Jenna? Great, okay, Dr. Jenna will be down there. And she will answer any of these questions. Now, let's focus on the far side of the water because Tekla's going to come breaking out of the trees. She'll talk to us on the radio. Watch the video when you see her over there, and you'll be able to follow her around. And there she is.
Coming out of the trees on the other side of the lake, and these dogs are really flying. It's so impressive that they can carry me and a four-wheeler, which weighs about 400 pounds, and still be going at 20 miles per hour. Now, what I team today, I can see that all of these dogs are working together and doing their job by the fact that all of their tug lines are nice and tight. It's a beautiful day out here on the trail. Now, up ahead, I've got you 3 leaders of left-hand command, but I'll call you on the way back.
Okay, now there was a fork and a choice of haw left, G right. So she took the left fork. She commanded haw, but she didn't have any reins on the backs of the dogs, no bits in their teeth. There's no mechanical means controlling that team at all. It's all done with the voice and the relationship that starts here with the puppies. Now she'll come back through the trees here around the 3rd turn. There she just is entering that turn.
Beautifully.
Watch the video.
And now we're on the homeward stretch. That's when they really kick it into gear to get us home. Like any endurance athlete or marathon runner, the Alaskan Husky knows that they need to save some energy in reserve so that at the end of a race, they can pass competitors in front of us and keep those other competitors behind us. These dogs look great, and they are excited to get back to the yard. Good job.
Now, her mother was on the frozen Yukon River one Sunday, and Granite was up front. They were training for an Iditarod. And Susan gave him a whole series of G right turn commands, and every time she hollered G, he turned left. And he'd never done that before. And finally, she got the message. Us humans are a little slow. And so she let him pull them off the river to the left-hand side, and the minute they cleared the ice on the right where they would have been, collapsed. And they would have died right there, and this girl wouldn't be here today. So these dogs saved Susan's life 5 times in her racing career. And it's a remarkable relationship. So there's the big finish.
Whoa!
Whoa! They don't like that word, do they? They don't like that word.
Well, thanks so much. That was a lot of fun, like always. And after every training run, we go up and down the line and give everyone a pat on the back to let them know we appreciate their hard work.
Well, then it's everybody into the pool after gym class. Or in this case, the water dish. Now, that was great fun. And I mentioned to folks that Jenna's going to come down and answer questions. That's great. And I know, Tekla, you'll be there too for the same reason. But I'm going to ask you to do an additional thing, because I want to tell the folks about this wonderful book that your mom and dad wrote. I know it was your favorite bedtime story, and you talked them into writing it down. And it's about Granite and your mom. Now, if somebody brings you a book, would you have time to write a little inspiring thing over your dad's signature so we can inspire a whole new generation here in 2019?
Absolutely. You know, I grew up hearing the story of Granite every time people came to visit because my mom was just so darn proud of this dog. She loved sharing his story because he became one of the greatest Iditarod lead dogs, even though he was born as a production of humans who didn't believe in him. I'd love to pass this story on to you if you'd like to get a copy for your children, your grandchildren, or maybe even a public library. Please, I'd love to dedicate it for you.
Well, it's very inspiring, as was the life of your mom and your family's traditions here at Trailbreaker. The fact that you're back home, which was terrific, and we don't have to say goodbye to you. We'll continue this when we go on shore at Chena Village in a little while. But for now, Tekla, thank you so much for your hospitality.
Well, thank you for stopping by.
All right, Tekla Munson, everybody. Laura Alloway, Yukon Quest vet, Iditarod vet, and Jenna, thank you, ladies, and thank you, dogs. Oh my. I just got an emotional jolt. When she waved, I saw her mother standing there. She's her mother's daughter. There's no question about it. And when I started doing this 27 years ago, her mother would stand by those logs, and Granite would stand right beside her. He was still alive too. And she would tell their story one boat at a time. And we started bugging her. We said, Susan, you got to write this down. And I thought she forgot.
Family's fish camp. For instance, my family's fish camp is located 25 miles below Caltech along the Yukon River. Now, the centerpiece of each fish camp is the fish wheel, just like the one you can see right here turning in the water. That is an incredibly efficient fish catching machine that allows us to catch enough salmon to support our families and dog teams throughout the winter months. Back on shore, the canvas wall tents that you see over there are what we would sleep in each summer. Then, closer to me are the outdoor drying racks, and this is where we would hang the salmon before they're rotated inside the smokehouse, which is that larger permanent structure behind me. The smokehouse is the key regular salmon into a lightweight, dehydrated, and fully preserved food source. After the salmon were fully dehydrated, they will be stored in cache, which is that storage shed built on stilts to the right of the smokehouse. And the cache is built on stilts to keep all of our food inside away from any animals. Speaking of animals, you'll notice some boxes over there in between the canvas wall tents, and those are our dog houses. We always bring our dogs with us to camp because they act as a natural alarm system in case any large game animals were to come into the area.
Well, and they're close to a source of food. The softer salmon parts are fed to the dogs right away, so there's no waste involved. And what about the one on the table now? What goes where?
So as I mentioned earlier, this is a chum salmon. Here in the interior of Alaska, we only get 3 kinds of the 5 types of salmon. We get a single run of the king and silver and 2 runs of this chum. Because the chum are slightly lesser quality and we get twice as many, we usually save these for the dogs. Now this process that I've started here is the basic dog food cut. I've started by taking out the guts, separating the head, then I cut the 2 fillets from the backbone, but I left it connected at the tail so it could be hung on the racks. There is meat left on this backbone, and since nothing is ever wasted in my culture, we will throw this into a larger bucket along with any other scraps, put water in it, boil it, and then give it to our dogs for food at camp. Then, if this were a head of a higher quality salmon, like the king or silver, this would be made into fish head soup, and that is considered a delicacy for our elders.
Well, and a sign of respect, which is something that I admire about your culture. But, Robin, I'm an elder. What does fish head soup taste like, please?
I don't know, Jay. I'm not old enough.
Good luck in Congress with that answer. What are we doing now, the final step here?
So right now I am scoring the salmon, and that is creating diagonal cuts through the flesh down to the skin. Scoring the salmon creates more surface area on the fillets, allowing the smoke to work deeper into it and further dehydrate it.
Now there's a great picture coming up. If you have your camera handy, she'll hold this up. You'll see how gravity creates that surface area by opening it up. And this salmon will stay preserved and nutritive for a dog team of 6 years or more. So if there's not as good a run next year, they're going to have some left over to tide them over because they go up and down. Wow, beautiful job. Grandma would be proud. Now, you mentioned smokehouse. Are you headed in there?
No. We never like to put a wet drippy salmon right into the smokehouse because it can mold. So just to prevent that altogether, we like to hang it outside just for a few hours until it gets that nice sheener glaze and stops dripping. Then it'll be rotated inside the smokehouse. Now, keep in mind that every family in every region has their own techniques and preferences. Since this whole entire process that I've started here is for dog food, the salmon will be rotated inside the smokehouse for 2 straight weeks until it is fully dehydrated, weighs less than a pound, and looks just like this one that I cut a few weeks ago.
Wow, well there's no weight to that. So the trapper could really pack the sled basket full for a long trap line run. What about for the human though?
Yeah, so my family has several differences between our human and our dog. When I was at home last week, we were preparing our salmon for human use. We started this by using a higher quality salmon, like the king, which is what we use, or we could use the silver, which is later in August. Next, we would clean those fillets really well to ensure that they're safe for eating. Next, my aunties would choose whether we want to make salmon fillets, which is perfect for half-dried salmon, or we could even make salmon strips like these, and we like to put these in jars for later. Either way, the salmon will be soaked in a brine, and my family likes to use a mixture of brown sugar, rock salt, and honey, just for about 15 minutes, and then we move it outside on the drying rack. Then after the drying rack, it'll be moved inside the smokehouse, as usual, before a shorter amount of time, just 2 to 3 days, because we like a much softer texture. And finally, we use different woods to smoke in the salmon. For humans, we like to use cottonwood or alderwood because it gives the salmon a nice sweeter taste. But for the dogs, we use spruce wood, driftwood, whatever we can find. They aren't too picky.
No, they're not. They're grateful. We're grateful for this introduction too. And I'm wondering now, as we step off the boat and stretch our legs, what's ahead?
Well, I'm glad to say that the guides and I are very excited to show you around the Cheetah Village and share with you some of our cultures. This village is a replica of the original Cheetah Village that Captain Jim visited when he ran free. When that village became inaccessible by boat, it largely ceased to exist. But
they thought that was different than this week. But that's how they say it. That's kind of I know. Then I can't see it of what I'm getting. Good morning.
We made it to our very first stop. It'll just be right up here at these benches. Hello. Oh. Good morning. I know. My name tag's always all
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Jasmine. I'm Koyukan Athabaskan, born and raised right here in Fairbanks. My parents are from the village of Caltag, which is located along the mighty Yukon River. I am an airman in the Air National Guard, and I'm also pursuing tribal management at the University of Alaska Fairbanks.
Yay!
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Chena Village. My name is Delana, and I'm Koyukan Athabaskan, and I was born and raised right here in Fairbanks. My mother is also from the village of Caltag, because they're first cousins, and best friend. And my father is from the village of Holy Cross. Both are located along the Yukon River, and this fall I'm going to be a freshman at Fort Lewis College in Colorado. Oh, thank you. Well, we are now in the Tanana Valley, the heart of the Athabaskan country. Today, Jasmine and I will be sharing with you how the Athabaskans skillfully survived in this environment for over 10,000 years, and how they adapted to village life and Western culture in the past century. We will have 3 short stops on the tour of the village, so please be sure to stay with us, because we're rotating with 2 other groups, and we would like to give you a chance to see everything. At the end of the tour, you'll have some time to roam around, ask questions, and take any pictures that you might have missed. So the Chena Village is a typical setting of an Athabaskan village after that first significant contact with Western culture, which happened a little more than 150 years ago. Prospectors arrived into the interior of Alaska on stern-wheeler steamboats, much like we all have done today on Discovery 3. Missionaries, traders, and trappers followed, and after 10,000 years of a bone and stone existence, the sudden introduction of new tools, weapons, and food allowed the Athabaskans to stop following herds again and to settle into more permanent villages like this one. Now, this large cabin you see in front of you was built entirely from timber harvested right here at this site, just like the original cabins back in the day. Large spruce trees were cut, peeled, and used for the walls. The gaps in between the logs were then chinked with moss, and this would windproof the cabin. And the roof is made from younger spruce poles that were peeled and laid flat across the top. Then it was covered with a layer of birch bark. placed dirt on top of the bark, and then grass was planted to keep the soil from eroding. And now that you folks know this, how many of you think you could survive an Alaskan winter in a cabin like this one? No. All right, we got 2 takers, 3, y'all can stay here. Oh, 4. But for the rest of you, you're gonna have to share our spacious guest cabin all the way to your left. Just kidding, that is actually called a trapper's line cabin. And cabins like those are built along the winter track line about a day's journey apart. Trappers and dog teams use that cabin to extend their trap line so they can safely travel far from their village. I know it doesn't look like much, but after trapping in cold 40 below weather, it was a warm, welcoming sight. And when trappers got back to their village, they would need somewhere to store their valuables. Which leads me to the structure that I'm sitting on, called a cache. Cache is a French word that means storage or hiding place, which is exactly what it is used for. It is built up on stilts to keep the contents inside, off of the damp ground, out of the winter snow, and away from all those pesky animals. In the front of the cache, you can see some fur-bearing animals that are found here in Alaska. This first guy here is a large-sized timber wolf. He stretches over 7 feet from nose to tail. The timber wolf was very important to the Athabascans for clothing. Cross-sections from his back can be used to make the outermost parts of a parka ruff, or an entire pelt can be used to make a complete parka, just like the one on display in front of the porch. This pelt is the lynx. Now the lynx is closely related to the bobcat. He's commonly known for his black-tipped ears, short stubby tail, and big fluffy paws that help him bound across the winter snow. This one is the wolverine. Now the wolverine was highly valued by the Athabascans for a natural oil that he has in his fur. It helps prevent frostbite and from your breath from freezing to it, which makes it very ideal for the innermost parts of a parka ruff. The wolverine is a very ferocious and cunning animal, so only the best Athabascan trappers would come home with this prize. In fact, Delana and I's grandpa once told us that if a wolverine and a bear were to cross paths, it would be the bear that would graciously step aside. These next 4 pelts are all foxes. We have the red fox, the silver fox, and the cross fox. All of these foxes are very abundant here in the interior, and all 3 can be found in the same litter. Now this beautiful white one on the end here is the Arctic fox. These guys are found in the northernmost parts of Alaska, up above the Arctic Circle. He's in his winter coat today, but in the summertime they turn brown. These little guys here are the ermines. They are also in their winter coat, white with a brown tipped tail. In the summertime they turn a beautiful chocolatey brown, then we call them weasels. We also have another playful nickname. Would you folks like to hear it?
Yeah.
But first, may I ask, is anyone traveling from Texas? Well, welcome to the big state of Alaska, where we playfully refer to these guys as our Texas-sized polar bears. No hard feelings, Texas. This pelt here is the muskrat. The muskrat's very warm, so it's commonly used for the main body parts of a parka. You would have to trap 40 to 60 of these guys to make a complete parka. This one here is the marten. Now we like the marten because his fur is extremely warm. And you only need 3 to make a complete marten hat. 1 on each side, 1 down the middle, and then we leave his tail on for decoration. Can anyone guess this next pelt? Right, the mink. Now the mink was actually not very valuable to the Athabascans because his hair is so short, it makes his fur not warm. So it was cut up into strips, used to trim clothing, or given to young girls so that they can practice their skin sewing skills. But after Western contact, we quickly changed our mind. And now he's known as the Money Pelt. This last pelt I have here to share with you is the beaver. The beaver was very important to the Athabascans for his rich meat, long guard hairs, and thick underfur that make him very warm and water resistant. Beaver fur is used to trim the cuffs of parkas, mittens, or mucklucks, which are native boots. Now that Delana and I have shared with you how the Athabascans lived after Western contact, we will be traveling back in time to share with you how they survived before Western contact, and you'll also get a look at those reindeer. So if you follow Delana down this path,
Yeah, they spray this area off. Otherwise, they keep warming us right now.
would you folks like to learn an Eskimo word? Yes? Okay, repeat after me. Akumalu. Akumalu. That means please sit down. So this area you see here is exactly what an Athabascan camp would have looked like before contact with Western culture. Anthropologists tell us that the early Athabascans had to survive in some of the most difficult environmental conditions known to man, and they did so for over 10,000 years. Before any contact with the outside world, a little more than 200 years ago, they lived entirely in a primitive bone and stone culture, so every day was a battle for survival. The early Athabascans were efficient hunter-gatherers, and they had to follow herds of game in order to survive. This meant roaming the Arctic, always on the move. And the moose and the caribou were the primary animals that they hunted. But speaking of caribou, the reindeer you see here are the domestic relatives to them. But caribou are wild animals that travel in herds and often along the same migratory path from one year to the next. And the Athabascans figured out these paths. So they would place snares and fences along it in order to slow the herd down and funnel an individual caribou into an easier place to kill it. Another advantage that they had in the winter is using these snowshoes. These snowshoes allow a group of Athabascan hunters to outmaneuver any solitary moose or caribou in deep snow conditions. It is made from 2 pieces of bent birch, tied together with rawhide, and a strip of moose hide for the binding. These large animals provided the Athabascans with nearly everything that they needed to survive. The meats, bones, and even the liquids were used, so nothing was ever wasted. The hide from the caribou was very valuable because of its warmth. Each caribou hair is hollow, which traps air inside, making it very lightweight and exceptionally warm. And if you look inside the structures here, you'll notice that each bed is made with fresh spruce boughs and topped with caribou hide. This made for a fast, warm, and portable mattress. Now looking at these structures, you can see that they are much less permanent than the log cabins made after contact with Western man. This is important because the Athabascans were nomadic people and they would move 8 or 9 times a year. Now to the right, this dome-like structure is a portable shelter called a skin hut. It is made from younger spruce poles that were steamed, bent, and fastened together. Caribou hide was stretched around the dome for protection, and when they are ready to move on to the next campsite, they would pack the hide with them because it's far too valuable to leave behind. So here we have it, folks, our world's first mobile home. To the far right is a more temporary shelter called the double lean-to. And the lean-to is fast and easy to put up, so Athabascan men use it when they are hunting. Spruce boughs or bark we placed over the pole frame to help shed that falling rain. Now I know my best friend and I have been talking a lot about the spruce tree, but another important tree to the Athabascans was the birch tree. Now we don't have any growing in this immediate area. Can you hear me in the back over the plane?
Yep.
Okay. Now I know we don't have any growing in this immediate area, but lucky for you folks, Delana woke up real early to chop this stuff down. other features that were important to the Athabascans. The first is a fungus called punk. P-U-N-K. Now the fungus punk grows on the trunks of the birch trees, and it is one of the reasons why the Athabascans were able to survive such harsh conditions. The Athabascans would bore a hole in this punk using a sharp rock, and then place a hot ember from a fire inside, where it would smolder for a day or more. And when the Athabascans are ready to move campsites, they would wrap this smoldering punk up in moss and tuck it inside a caribou hide carrying pouch, just like this one. And when they got to their next campsite, they would take the smoldering punk out and use it to quickly establish a brand new fire. So this is how they transported fires from one campsite to another. Another interesting fact is that in the summertime, when you burn the fungus punk, it emits a thick black smoke to act as a natural mosquito repellent. The second important feature is the bark. Now, birch bark is highly pliable and water resistant, which allows us to make canoes such as this one. Now, birch bark canoes are very rare in existence, so Delana and I are extremely lucky to be able to share this with you today. The roots of the canoe are made from steamed and bent spruce wood, covered with a layer of bark, and tied together with split spruce roots. Now, this black resin that you see down here over the seams, it is a mixture of spruce pitch, animal fat, and moose or caribou hair. Now, a canoe this size can hold up to 12 hunters.
Wow.
For about 30 seconds.
Seriously.
It can actually hold 2 hunters with all of their gear. Now, made in the similar manner as the canoe is the birch bark basket. Athabascan women would use this basket to gather, store, and cook their food. Now, birch bark is highly flammable. So to cook their food, they would fill this up with water, then add in their chunks of meat, roots, or berries, then start the long process of rotating hot rocks from a fire in and out, and in and out, until the contents reached a slow boil. So now you folks know why I'm so grateful for my microwave. Now, this last item I have here to share with you is the birch bark baby basket. Mama would line this basket with moss or rabbit fur, then tuck baby in with these beaded moose hide straps. Then she'd go about her day. And when baby did what babies are known to do best, Mama would take baby out, empty out all of the soil contents, and start all over again. So here you have it, folks, your world's first reusable, biodegradable, and earth-friendly baby diaper. So, at our final stop for today, Delana and I will be sharing with you how the Athabascans hunted the moose, tanned the hides for clothing, and also show you some very beautiful beaded garments. So if you follow my best friend down this side path over here,
solid ground.
Why do they have a restroom here?
Oh, it was bigger. It's only 48 inches.
Monkeys out here. I think we're monkeys.
Video, is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
What kind of little thing do you call that?
GoPro.
Oh,
It's a
GoPro.
GoPro.
Oh, I heard that young couple talking about our GoPro. And I thought,
Yeah.
the heck's that?
Yeah, it's just, you can take pictures, but
You can hand hold it or mount it or whatever, you know, the boat or whatever you're on.
Do you put it on your computer when you get home?
well, we'll have our son-in-law do it. We hadn't learned how to do that
That's
yet.
the plan. Son-in-law will have to do that.
West Virginia.
That's the spirit.
No, go ahead. Go.
Know when to walk away. You never count your money. Sitting at the every time in a full country with the dealing time. Every gambler. Now the secret is one.
19% left. Only 19% left battery.
They manufactured in parts. They then put on the railroad and railed her out to San Francisco. Once they got in San Francisco, they assembled her in San Francisco Bay, then took her completely apart, loaded all the parts that made up this vessel onto steamships, then barged her up to Seward, Alaska. Once in Seward, they transferred that entire load over to the Alaska Railroad, and it took 114 flat cars to move all the parts that made up the stretch by rail from Seward on up to Fairbanks. Once in Fairbanks, they did change the load.
Yeah, later. Oh, why did you say that?
What, you know, the good, the best. What are you gonna say?
Yeah.
Sit there watching this land.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Dad, can I spill water over? No. Harry.
And there you have the tour of our stateroom. So we'll see you later.
is the Glacier Bay Park that we're cruising through right now. There it come. It come up again, honey. Now. There it comes again. There's two of them.
Good morning, everyone aboard the Golden Princess. Once again, this is Ranger Erica coming to you live from the bridge. I am just blown away by this afternoon's display of incredible wildlife that we have visible right now. For those of you who are outside, looking along the right starboard side of the ship, we have a great sighting of at least 2, 3, perhaps members of Orcus orca, or the killer whale. Now, this is a tremendous sighting, not often, this is not an everyday sighting that we have out here in Glacier Bay. So folks, again, if you're not outside looking off to the right starboard side of the ship at about 3 o'clock, get there now. This is a great sighting, and I'll be back on the microphone in a little bit more to talk about what we're seeing, folks. Everyone, welcome. What a great way to get our day started. Get outside, go look at these beautiful beasts as they cruise through these waters.
Another one popped up.
It's a saloon. 1901 is was built, or 02, I believe. Pristine condition. Hey, I point out those old buildings first. Folks, I want to make sure you understand, Skagway has never had a major fire. So these are the original buildings, not a Hollywood set. As a matter of fact, Skagway is the only National Historic Landmark in the whole U.S. that is a town. The whole town is the landmark, not just a building. So please remember that as you walk around. Do you have any beer drinkers in this tour?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah? 4th Avenue, Skagway Brewing Company. Have a spruce tip. They brew them from the tips of those Sitka spruce on the hillside. My favorite beer in town. The Skagway Brewing Company has been brewing spruce tip since 1898, the gold rush, because it was high in vitamin C and it helped fight scurvy. Back when you couldn't get oranges up here from Florida, scurvy would kill you. But they found there was, if they made a beer or tea or jelly from those spruce tips, it was actually medicinal. Now it's just delicious, so try it. Like I said, I had a couple of pictures before I picked you folks up. Helps me cope. Kermsey opened the first watch store here, and he painted our first billboard. Look at Kermsey's clock up on the rocks behind us, way up on the rock face. That clock painted up there? He painted that in 1898 to advertise this store. Both still here. The oldest building on Broadway is coming up. That's the Goldberg Cigar Store, built in 1897. And by the way, if you look down the sidewalk, past the cigar store where those folks were standing with the backpack, see those tiny, tiny little houses? Those houses are called cribs. And those cribs are where the ladies of negotiable affection, shall we say, negotiable affection, used to live and work. Kind of like this lady coming up on the right. Yeah, prostitution was actually an important part of our history, so we have displays and talk about it. We're up to 6th Avenue already. There's only one more block. We're up to our bank. Wells Fargo is our only bank. Next is the post office. By the way, that blue mailbox, that's part of the post office. That is the only place in all of Skagway to mail a letter. That one blue box. We have a real small town. We have one bank, one mailbox, one market, one gas station, and 41 jewelry stores. Yeah, figure that part out. Hey, the only stone building in town is our museum, right there on 7th. It's a Harley dealer. I'm sure some of you might be interested in that. Saw a couple of jackets back there. And that's it. That's the historic district, 7th Avenue.
Was that fudge store the one that she told us about?
Yep.
So I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's take a minute. I'll show you where the train's going to drop you off. It's be right here. A block from, let's go one more block. I'm going to loop around the block, so when you get off the train, I don't want you to feel lost. This is Broadway, the main drag. A short block toward the track, and I mean a real short block. I think there's one house on each side. 1.5 houses. And that's it. You're going to get off the train right here, in front of these rocks. Call it that yellow line on the left. You'll be at this end of the train. So right about there, you're going to get off and you're going to look around and say, oh, where are we? No, you're one block from Broadway. Look, there's the museum. So you just walk away from the tracks one block. You'll be right on Broadway. You wander through town and you're going toward your ship, remember? At the end of your wandering, you'll be there. And there you go. The one short block, this is Broadway.
That little city bus.
Yep. Did you have a nice day? Well, I enjoyed having you. Thank you. Yeah, take a look down Broadway. Look, the ships, the town, right there. So that is the end of your day when you get off. And remember, if you want to go right back to the ship, some of you have 6 o'clock dinner reservation, there'll be a Chilkoot bus. How many of you, they also didn't know it was going to be 50 below zero. So this law made them have warm clothes. But it sure was a hardship for that first couple of months when you had to shuttle your goods to Lake Bennett. every couple of years, the boulders topple over, it moves, and it kills the trees. You can see that fault line where the waterfall was. See it better? Very geologically active area, in other words.
Got it.
If I want to just below zero, high winds, it's just nasty. Hey, let's do a quick stop at International Falls. It's this whole series of waterfalls on your left here. When Heidi and I get a day off, this is our favorite day hiking. We'll come out here, you'll see our hiking trail down there at the bottom. You hike down, and then follow the falls up and over the top. Also, that avalanche sign, that's how you rate the avalanche danger, like should you go skiing today. The locals need to know that sign. So this is the Tormented Valley. Very, very rough winter up here. Because now we're on this side of the Coast Mountain. That side of the Coast Mountains is the warm ocean air mass. This side is now the Arctic air mass. So it's much, much colder on this side of that wall of Coast Mountain. You see the trees, these are 100 years old. And they just can't get any bigger than this. Very, very high winds because that low spot in the mountains acts like a funnel. And it just whistles the winter wind through here. Matter of fact, the name Skagway comes from the Tlingit word Skagawa, which means home of the north wind. I'll show you that spot where they built their boats. Look at the two-tone color of this lake. Any of you see up there how the lake changes color? It goes from clear water to green water. And that's because Summit Creek comes in, it drains the glaciers back there, and it brings in that glacial silt right in the middle. Now this is greenish, but it gets much greener right in the middle. And I'm planning on making a stop there for you folks. Certainly not a tourist stop. Where I'm planning on stopping, you're going to have to be careful. Rough. But I want you to see the real, what this is subarctic tundra. And I don't believe you can see it through the window. I think you should have the opportunity to walk in it, feel the spongy mosses and flowers and lichens. Taste the berries. I'll show you the bear berries. They're starting to get ripe. You eat a bunch of those. I believe that's what you came up here for. So, let's take 10 of our minutes and do that. Look how beautiful it's opening up.
I thought we weren't supposed to eat.
This is also a good spot, left and right, to see how everything is so round. Look at all the roundness. Every mountain is round on top. On the left, even on the right.
Yeah.
You know why that is?
Nope.
No, that's not why. They are old. They were covered in flowing ice during the last ice age. The ice was 5,000 feet, a mile thick. So every peak under 5,000 feet is round. The only place you see jaggedness, like you saw back there, you'll see them here and there, are something that sticks up above 5,000. That's still jagged. We're in the bottom of a glacier here. There was a big round glacier valley. It goes up that side, we're near the bottom, and up that side. And these are all tributary glaciers, these valleys. You want a great example of the color difference? Look to your right in about 10 seconds. You're going to see a clear rainwater pond right here. And the glacial silt green behind. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
That's the best spot I know to see that stark color difference. And as I said, be careful, but I want you folks to explore this. Don't go anywhere where you're not comfortable. I'm not really supposed to let you out here where you can get hurt, but I want you to see the berries and mosses and stuff, so let's take 10 minutes right here.
Okay.
If you feel up to it, you can wander right down to the lake.
Okay.
We're still up pretty high, folks, so put your jacket on if you have one. Like last time, some of you were chilly back there. The sun is out, that's going to help.
Some of that looked like volcanic.
But I want to take 10 of our minutes and have you look at this. I'll point out the bear berries if you want to try a couple. Otherwise, give me your cameras. There's some great perches on the top of these rocks to stand for an incredible picture. I tell you this, I'm such a serious historian. I'm one of the few people that I know, folks, that have traveled the whole journey of these stampeders myself. So I could learn what they went through. So, yeah, I hiked the Chilkoot Trail. I walked from Skagway on the coast, up and over the mountains and glaciers into Lake Bend, the Yukon, where we're having lunch. Little car cross there on the left. If we have time, as I said, I intend to have us spend a little time there.
Okay.
That's a place you can stamp your passport if you want a ceremonial Yukon Territory stamp. You know what? There's nobody behind me. I want to show you something cool up ahead. Just take a second.
Okay.
About 10 years ago, right about when I started here, we had a very small avalanche. Very small. I mean like 30 yards wide. Has to be one of the smallest avalanches you'll ever see. But even that tiny avalanche, I want you to see how it snapped off all the trees. So if you see what a little avalanche did, maybe you'll get an idea what a real big one might do someday. Take a look coming up on your left.
Oh, right there.
Look at that. I mean, that's the smallest avalanche you'll ever see, that wide. Lake, by the way. T-U-T, like King Tut. T-U-T-S-H-I. Alright, so let's plan on being at lunch within the hour. Okay, a little less than that maybe. I'm trying to think of what stops I want to make, in other words. So Touchai Lake would be considered, I don't know, I would call it a perfect lake. Because it's crystal clear water. But I'm a fly fisherman. I catch Arctic char and grayling. I've caught northern pike and lake trout, some of the big stuff in here. So it's full of fish. It's on open public land. In the U.S., we would call this national forest. Here in Canada, they call it crown land, but same thing, public, open to the people. And it's even got good access, got a state highway right next to it. What's that? You do have to have a fishing license, yeah. But this lake, you get in car across that. I get mine online, my fishing license. Just print it out. On the perfect, beautiful summer day, man, it will be covered in jet skis, right? Fishermen, sailboats. They'd be water skiing. There would be a marina with an interpretive center and an overlook. And look at this, not a kayak. On the perfect day of the year. I don't see a canoe. 32 miles long. You folks want to know why there's no people on the lake? I can tell you why there's no people on the lake. Because there's no people anywhere. Really. The nearest town ahead of us, where we're having lunch, by the way, is Carcross. Population of Carcross is about 490. The nearest town behind us is Fraser. What's the population of Fraser? That narrow neck of water way out there, that's the entrance to the Yukon River.
Oh, yeah?
So all the homemade boats came right by this island. This is the river ahead of us, by the way. The boats came by the island, down that narrow neck, made a left, it went through one or two more lakes, Lewis Lake, Marsh Lake, and then they're in the Yukon River, about 40, 50 miles from here. So they stuck a sign on their sand pile. But it is unique.
The sandy beach.
As I said, it's simply the shore of an ancient lake bed, which is underground all through this 20-mile, 30-mile area. But
Oh, there was a sign that said desert.
it sticks up right here. It's kind of weird. So let's go to that.
if you know anything about Alaska, is that most of the day it's completely dark. The men would hang from ropes in negative 40-degree weather, working mostly by candlelight.
Okay, y'all smile for the camera. Did he disappear? No, he's right there. He's right there. Oh, he hid. He just hid then. He just turned his head and... Good morning.
Before we start this project.
Passengers as they disembarked from their ship, but standing next to the bartender, he always had with him his pet mule on a leash. And on the tail of that animal, there was a sign hanging there that said, "Follow my ass to the Red Dog Saloon." Our first government building is here on the right, our City Hall. The side of City Hall is a nice painted mural done by a local Juneau Clinton Indian artist named Wallen. He also does. By the end of the summer, we're expecting 1.1 million to come off the cruise ships, and we will average in a week between 22 to 27 large cruise ships. And our record for a single day is 7 large cruise ships in Juneau at the same time. That'd be 4 tied to the docks and 3 anchored out in our wharf currently. And even though we only have 190 miles of paved roads to drive on, the 32,000 people that live here somehow managed to own over 21,000 vehicles to drive. Yeah, we're a town that loves to drive. Even if often our only choice seems to be to drive around in circles. Now,
performing. Oh, wow. I think they're going to jump up in a minute.
Thank you very much for everyone watching. If you like this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this one, please subscribe.